On today's show, the Dallas Mavericks get a gutsy win against the Denver Nuggets. How did they make it happen? How has Tim Hardaway Jr. continued to stay hot? And the Dallas Mavericks found a way to win a game when Luka Doncic didn't go nuclear? Break all that down and more on today's Locked On Mavs.
I'm Luka Doncic, and this is Locked On Mavericks.
Mavericks, NBA champions. Bang! It's good, and the Mavericks have won the game.
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
And welcome. You're locked on to the Dallas Mavericks. My name is Nick Angstadt, media member and NBA channel manager for the Locked On Podcast Network. Letting it ride. Oh, it feels good. Oh, it feels good. 13th time to let it ride this season. Dallas Mavericks get the win against the Denver Nuggets. Thanks for making Locked On Mavs your first listen every day. We are free and available on all podcast platforms, including YouTube. But the best way you can help us grow the show is to comment anything below. Give me one reason the Mavs won this game. There's a bunch of them. But give me one reason in the comment section below. Today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. Prize Picks first-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with promo code Locked On. That's prizepicks.com. Promo code Locked On. Let it ride. If you're watching on YouTube, you know that I'm going solo. On the audio side, you may not know yet. Isaac Harris not with me. He had a church emergency, like a church something where he couldn't get away. He texted me. The game was about to start, and he goes, I'm at this church thing, and the speaker hasn't even started yet. And if you are part of the church, or at least the Christian church that I grew up in, you know that if the speaker has not started by the time you were supposed to leave, you are not about to leave that place. You are not getting home. So he got held up, and that means the streak continues. My streak of being solo and getting wins now extends to 3-4 games now that I've been back. And when Isaac's solo, they have lost in this stretch. It's been a wild stretch for Locked On Mavs. But today, we got to talk about Tim Hardaway Jr. And not just the game tonight, but we will talk about his game tonight. He was incredible in this game, and in more ways than just hitting threes, which is huge, but he did hit threes. So we'll talk about HIMMY Hardaway. Let's get into Dorian Finney-Smith. He had a great game. You know, anytime we get a chance to talk good about Dorian Finney-Smith, well, we will, and we are going to talk about him. And let's talk about how the Dallas Mavericks found a way to win without Luka Doncic, or not without him, but without Luka Doncic going insane, going nuclear, going off the wall. The first time this season, the Dallas Mavericks have won an NBA-sanctioned game in the regular season when Luka did not score 30 points. Just sit on that one for a second. Every other win the Mavericks have had this season, Luka has scored 30 points. He did not in this game. He scored 22 points in this one. And the Dallas Mavericks got a win without him, scoring 30 points. It was a wild, wild way to win a game. And there were many ups and downs in this one. Just the ups and downs. They were up by 10 with 4 minutes to go. And then all of a sudden Denver had a lead. And then all of a sudden they were playing the foul game. And then, Dinwiddie gets the free throw line. Jokic misses a free throw. Dinwiddie gets the free throw line. Murray hits 2 of his. Tim gets fouled and he missed them both. And the second one he missed when it was turns out to be a great miss. Oh, just the up and down. Like, I had to check my blood pressure during the game. I was like tapping my Apple Watch going like, what is, like, oh my gosh, I need to stand up and, shake, like shake and try and get back into it. Tim Hardaway Jr. is incredible. 29 points, 3 boards, and a couple of those were pretty big boards. He had one late in the fourth quarter. A couple of assists, 3 steals for Tim Hardaway Jr., and he took a charge. 3 steals and he took a charge. Big defensive game for Tim Hardaway. That is considered a big defensive game for Tim Hardaway. And he hasn't necessarily been a liability, and he wasn't necessarily a liability defensively in this game. And that's sort of the thing about Tim Hardaway. Yes, we'll talk about his three-point shooting. Another game, 5 games in a row where he hits 5 or more threes. We'll talk about that record. But he hasn't been a liability in the other areas of the game. He has been part of this collective tissue that has been the Dallas Mavericks defense. And the Dallas Mavericks defense did show up in this game For the most part, the Nuggets finished with 116 offensive rating, which is like middle of the pack, but the Nuggets have been an incredible offensive team. So they hold them to 116 points per 100 possessions. For the season, the Nuggets are scoring 117. So that's under their average, right? They have been an incredible offense this season, and the Mavericks held them. We'll consider that a win, right? Like, let's consider that a win. For how the season was going a couple of games ago, that has to be considered a win for the Mavericks. So Tim Hardaway Jr., he shot 6 of 8 from 3 and 9 of 12 from the free throw line. He got to the free throw line. This is what I'm talking about when I say he's been doing things other than just hitting threes. He got to the free throw line 12 times. Made 9 of them. He missed 3, but one of those was, I think, maybe intentional. The final one, maybe intentional. Probably not, but maybe intentional. The last time Tim Hardaway Jr. shot 12 free throws in a game was against Memphis, like almost exactly a year ago, December 4th, 2021. Last 5 games for Tim Hardaway Jr., 24.5 points, 4.5 rebounds a game, 1.5 steals per game in about 30 minutes, shooting 54% from 3 on 11 attempts per game. The man is just shooting the ball in a way that we haven't seen in a while these last 5 games. And the Mavericks have needed every bit of it. They needed every bit of him shooting that well because turns out the Mavs just need one other player. Like, even if Luka is not on his highest game, they just need one other player to step up. Just one. Just give you one guy that can score 25, that can score 29, that can, go to the free throw line 12 times, that can do that. Just give me one. And one of the reasons why we were kind of high on the Mavericks, even when they lost Jalen Brunson, was that, all right, well, at least one of Tim, Christian Wood, or Dinwiddie will go off like this. And for the last 5 games, it's been Tim Hardaway. This isn't going to last. He's not going to shoot 54% for the rest of the season. I would love to have that be a jinx and him continue to do that. He's not going to do that, right? Like, he's not going to continue to shoot this well for the rest of the season, but he's stepping up and showing you that he's still capable of stepping up in moments like this. Remember, not this past season in the playoffs because he didn't play with a foot injury. The year before that, he scored 17 points a game, the second leading scorer for the Mavericks against the Clippers in the playoffs in that 7-game series. He was the guy. It was not Chris Porzingis. It was Luka. It was not Jalen Brunson, who barely played in that series towards the end. It was Luka and Tim Hardaway. So this is a guy that has stepped up before. Jason Kidd believed in him and really wanted him to step forward and be able to basically just shoot it out. Hey, Timmy, I know I'm about as old as your dad. We probably played in all-star games together. Go in there and shoot it out. And that's what he's done. That's what he's done in these starts. He started against Milwaukee. He took 6 threes, not as many, but then 11 threes, 14 threes, 13 threes, 9 threes, and then tonight 8 threes and made 6 of them. He's like, just shoot it out. And he did. And now he's gotten the rhythm. And maybe he's a guy that has to start. And if that's the case, then hey, Bullock wasn't doing much in the starting lineup anyway. And so here we are. Tim Hardaway Jr. become just the 10th player in NBA history to connect on 5 threes in each of the in 5 consecutive games. So make 5 threes in 5 consecutive games. Curry has done it 7 times. An incredible amount. Harden has done it 4 times. Paul George has done it 2 times. Jalen Green has done it. Damian Lillard has done it. Jason Tatum, Gary Trent Jr., Dennis Scott, 3D has done it. George McLeod on Dallas did it forever ago. And then now Tim Hardaway Jr. hit 5 or more threes in 5 consecutive games. An incredible mark. And the Dallas Mavericks 3-point shooting continues to be a catalyst. Continues, not even just the catalyst, continues to be the benchmark for how they win games. Like, it's the only thing that determines if they're going to win or lose. So we'll talk about that. And Dorian Finney-Smith and Luka Doncic didn't play great, but still got a triple-double, and the Mavericks found a way to win. How? Sway. We'll talk about that coming up. But before we do, let me tell you about Prize Picks, the best way to play some daily fantasy when you want to play something different, when you want to try not against these opponents that have these, computers in a basement that figure out the best algorithm for all this stuff. It is daily fantasy where you can pick 2 to 5 players, and if they score more or less in their Prize Picks projections, you can win up to 25 times. 25 times. That is an insane amount of money that you can win on these entries. No competing against other people. It's just you versus the projections. You can play NBA, NFL, MLB, PGA, college, World Cup, WNBA, all kinds of stuff that you can play safe and fast withdrawals. Now, go to the PrizePicks app or download the PrizePicks app or go to prizepicks.com. Sign up and play daily fantasy sports today. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with the promo code LOCKEDON. That's one word, LOCKEDON. If you deposit $100, PrizePicks will give you $100 with the promo code LOCKEDON. Sign up for an instant deposit match at prizepicks.com. All right, Isaac. Thanks for making Locked On Mavs your first listen. Go check out Locked On Sports Today, the great podcast talking about all the big things in sports. I'm sure they will have some kind of NBA kind of footprint on this one. There will definitely be some NFL talk there. I'm sure some college football stuff for the last couple of days with the Final Four being named. Go check out Locked On Sports Today. All right. The Dallas Mavericks get a win against the Denver Nuggets. They win 116-115, where just no one in Dallas has any more nails anymore because they were just biting their nails off that entire last part of the game. It was a 10-point lead for the Mavericks with 4 minutes and 6 seconds to go. They were up by 10 with 4 minutes, but the Nuggets had just hung around. The Mavericks, it felt like they were just like nursing a lead, just nursing like a 3, 4, 5, 6 point lead for almost the entire second half. If you look at their game chart, it's just like they only got a 10-point lead once. It was with 4 minutes to go. They were just nursing that lead. The Nuggets only had one lead in the second half up until the very final minute. And the Mavericks had been playing some really good defense. But one of the big things I think one of the big reasons why the Mavericks won this game is they were able to take control of the game in the middle of the first quarter. The bench unit comes in, and the Mavs bench is just better than the Nuggets right now. Nuggets were without Michael Porter Jr., so they're down a guy. The Nuggets bench has kind of been rough back and forth. They got Bones Highland coming off the bench. He's been great, but like the Zeke Naji, Christian Braun, Jeff Green, Chanchar, like that whole amalgamation of guys, DeAndre Jordan, throw him out there. They haven't necessarily gelled and been a strong point of this Nuggets team. So the Mavericks, their second unit has been. They come in, they're able to go on a quick 9-0 run. They force some turnovers. The Mavericks had 8 points off of turnovers in the first 8 minutes of the game, which is very rare for this team to get that. And so they were able to get out to a decent lead there. And then they took control at that point. And then you're like, okay, you go into halftime. You're feeling pretty good about this team. They're up 64-58. Up by 6, so not by a ton, but still have a lead. It felt like they were in control. And they're in a second night of a back-to-back. The Mavericks played the night before. They had played a pretty tight game the night before too. And it's in Denver. Everybody's talking about the elevation where it's hard to breathe. I was just in Utah. It is. You go up a flight of stairs and you're like, dang, am I super out of shape? I know I am, but am I this out of shape? And you're like, okay, third quarter is going to be huge. Come out of halftime. You have to go on some kind of run, or you have to just hold off the Nuggets because you know that they're going to go on some kind of run. It's always the way that happens in these back-to-backs where, the team that played the night before plays better in the first half. They force a bunch of turnovers, which the Mavericks did. They hit a bunch of threes. They hit 9 of 18 threes in the first half. They scored 17 points off of turnovers in the first half. They're doing all the right things, and the Nuggets just don't seem like they have it all together. And then the third quarter comes, it's a blitz by the home team that didn't play the night before. And then all of a sudden, the team that played well in the first half is just completely out of it, right? It just happens so many times in the NBA. The Mavericks, that script was kind of playing out because all of a sudden, Denver goes on a pretty good 11-3 run to start the third quarter. Jamal Murray gets his fourth foul at about the 8:30 mark in the third quarter, and Tim Hardaway Jr. just comes in and starts hitting some more shots. He started hitting some more threes, and the Mavericks, after a timeout, go on a 12-3 run to the midway point of the third quarter. They were able to stave off that Denver Nuggets run, and that was, I think, the big part of this game. Those starters, the Mavericks that were out there, were able to stop the run. They were able to stop the bleeding, and they were able to figure it out. It has just been really tough for the Mavericks at certain points in this game, certain points in this season, to stave off a run like that, to overcome some of that, to, no changes were made, no subs were brought in. It was just the Mavericks calling it, Jason Kidd called the timeout, probably a little too late. Called the timeout when they lost the lead, and they gained it back, went on a 12-3 run of their own on the backs of the Mavericks moving the ball, playing really good connected defense. That's the way they win games. That's the way the Mavericks win games. They have to, when the Mavericks shoot a better three-point percentage than their opponents, they're 9-2 this season. They got to shoot the three ball better than their opponents. They shot 47%. The Nuggets shot 40%. So again, that mark moves to 9-2. Dorian Finney-Smith was excellent at times in this game. 19 points, 3 steals. He hit 5 threes, including maybe one of the biggest threes of the game. He hit late with 16 seconds left to basically seal the game at 114 points that the Mavericks got there. Then they played the foul game and all that. But huge three when the Mavericks were down. They needed something. They needed somebody to come up big. Luka was getting doubled. One of the reasons why Luka didn't have the greatest game, we can get into that now. Luka didn't play out of his mind. One of the reasons why he didn't play the greatest game was because he was getting doubled a lot. And the Mavericks doubled Jokic too. Both teams are playing this game of, we're not going to let that star player beat us. Have everybody else. Have the Tim Hardaways. Have the Dorians. Have the Dinwiddies beat us. Have the Josh Greens, the Maxi Klebas. Like, let those guys beat us. We're going to double your guy. Mavericks did the same thing to the Nuggets. We're going to double Jokic. And so Dorian was kind of the release valve for some of that. Dorian and Tim Hardaway Jr. combined for 11 of 18 from 3. 11 of the Mavs' 17 threes came from those two guys. Gotta love it. They each had 3 steals, and huge nights for those guys to be able to go off. And, oh, you know what, Dorian? We'll give you.
You know, Bang Bros. Trying to keep it. The Bang Bros.
It wasn't Bullock that was shooting with him, but we'll give it to him.
You know, Bang Bros.
We'll give it to him on that one. And so those guys go off. They're the release valve that the Mavericks needed when Luka was getting double teamed. But Luka did not have his best game. 22 points. He was 5 of 17 from the field. He hit 4 of 9 threes. And he hit 4 threes in the first half. So you look at Luka's numbers. Like his first half, he had 15 points, 6 boards, 7 assists, 4 of 8 from the field, 4 of 6 from 3. You're like, okay, that's a pretty good half for Luka. Second half, 7 points, 4 rebounds, 5 assists, 1 of 9 from the field, and missed all 3 of his threes. Just bad. And in the fourth quarter, even worse, Luka just did not have, like you could tell at the end of this, even though Luka only played 29 minutes last night, in this game, he just didn't have it. 0 points, missed all 3 of his shots in the fourth quarter, only 2 assists, 2 turnovers, so assist-to-turnover ratio was null. He just did not have it. The Mavericks they were desperately wanting, when they went up by 10, with 4 minutes to go, they desperately wanted Luka to just hit a couple of shots. Just hit a couple of shots. And he only had 1 2-point shot the whole game, and it was an and one. They just were not letting him get anywhere, and his legs couldn't get him to the spots that he normally gets to. When he can, like, the Nuggets defense is not good. I listened to an episode of Locked On Nuggets with Matt Moore and Adam Mares the other day after they had lost 2 games in a row, and it almost sounded like this team was like, should we tank? Like, are we that bad? Because of how bad the vibes were with this defense, and they had championship expectations. And when you have championship expectations, you expect to play better than like the 29th, 27th best defense in the NBA. And that's what they have been playing. And so this defense is not good. But Luka just didn't have the legs to get to certain spots. Aaron Gordon is pretty good at defending Luka at spots. KCP, I thought, is just, quick and can stay in front of him. And Luka just struggled to get to the spots that he normally gets to in this game. He did go to the free throw line, a few times, and that was able to really help the Mavericks. The pace in this game. The pace in this game was in the Mavs' favor. And we can talk about that in a little bit. But the Mavericks get a win. When Luka doesn't score 30 points before this game, the Mavericks were 0-5. They were 0-6 when he doesn't score 30 points. In one of those games, he didn't play. But the Mavericks finally found a way to win. And the way that they found a way to win, Hardaway's got to get hot. Dinwiddie's got to hit their threes, hit these open shots, because Luka is going to throw those passes. His passes were still on it. His passes were still on it in this game. He had some bullet passes in this one. And he's the best passer in the NBA by far. He showed it in this game. Even when he doesn't have it scoring, he's still going to impact the game. He's still going to do something great, and that's passing. Got the triple-double, 22 points, 10 boards, 12 assists. Only 5 turnovers overall, which is huge in a game like this, because when it's so slow, when it's so back and forth, can't give up the ball this many times. And he didn't. Coming up, let's talk about the rest of this game. What took the Mavericks? What got the Mavericks to this win? How else did everybody else look? We'll talk about some of these other players coming up. But before we do, let me tell you about BetOnline. It's the best place to check out the odds and lines inside and outside of sports. You can go and see some odds for the World Cup. I was watching some World Cup. I learned a couple of new phrases today. I love how anytime I tweet about the World Cup, someone always has to come in and be like, "That's not what this is." I'm sorry. I don't know that much about it. Odds to win the World Cup. Brazil now, plus 170. France is plus 425. That seems to be what the final is going to be at this point. Morocco got a huge win today. They're only plus 3,300. Croatia is plus 4,000. Portugal, the man, is up plus 625. So you can check that out at BetOnline. You can also check out game props. They have World Cup specials. What are the World Cup specials? Interesting. You can go check out all kinds of different stuff from the World Cup. You can go see individual games, all that kind of stuff. Check it out on BetOnline. It's BetOnline where the game starts. All right, Isaac, let's talk about the rest of this game because the Dallas Mavericks get a win. Yes. You know who was great in this game? Dwight Powell. We've talked about Dwight Powell a lot, and a lot of times online, people are like, let's bench Dwight Powell. But you know what?
Twitter isn't the coach or the player.
You know, I was just waiting to do that. You guys know I had that queued up. That was from Jason Kidd before this game. He just was like...
Twitter isn't the coach or the player.
You know I had that queued up. Some of you fell for that, and you knew that I was coming with that. Dwight Powell in this game, like 8 points, 7 boards, 1 steal, 1 assist, went to the free throw line once, just didn't seem like a greatest game on the box score, but I thought he defended Jokic well, at least for him. Jokic only took 13 shots. He hasn't been taking a ton of shots this year. He's not like trying to go for the scoring record for sure this year. It seems like he's really trying to facilitate, get everybody involved early in the season. He had 19 points. 8 assists. At a certain point, you're just not going to stop Jokic. But I felt like he limited him. In ways he was able to just be mobile, stay in front of him, try to body him. At one point, he blocked Jokic standing on his flat feet where you knew, okay, something's going on with Jokic. He's not having a good game. Where Dwight Powell blocks Jokic, not even jumping, just standing there. It was just a weirdly timed play that Dwight Powell was able to get. But I thought in the 20 minutes that he played, I thought he did a pretty good job on him. Max Kleba, same thing, came in, and those guys seem to kind of bother Jokic. I don't know if I can't remember a game where Jokic really goes off against the Mavs because those type of guys are hard. It's sort of this similar thing when we talk about with Christian Wood on a different level, obviously a multi-time MVP level with Jokic, but where he doesn't have the same type of advantages against mobile bigs like that, where he can't just take them off the dribble, he can't just shoot over them because they kind of negate both of those things. He's still going to get his, but he didn't get as much of his as you would think. Aaron Gordon was of course the guy for the Nuggets that went off. 27 points in this one, 10 of 13 from the field. He hit 2 threes. It was Luka or Tim Hardaway that was guarding him. And when Tim Hardaway Jr. is guarding Aaron Gordon, something is wrong fundamentally with your team. And we already know this about the Mavericks, that they don't have the answer like that. Them going away from Reggie Bullock in the starting lineup puts Tim in the starting lineup, which has been great for the offense. But even though he hasn't been a complete liability in the starting lineup defensively, he still is not a guy you want switching on to Aaron Gordon. And Luka, didn't have it on offense. He definitely didn't have it on defense in certain points of this game. And he let Aaron Gordon get a bunch of easy shots and easy buckets in this one around the rim. Christian Wood. He's interesting to me in this matchup because in the first matchup, it was when the Mavs played the Nuggets. It was so clear. It was so clear that when Jokic wasn't there and Murray wasn't there and Gordon wasn't there in those first 2 matchups the Mavs played against the Nuggets, it was so clear that Wood was the advantage that they had against DeAndre Jordan. He was starting. Anytime Wood and DeAndre Jordan were on the court at the same time, the Mavericks had a clear advantage, and Jason Kidd didn't really go to it. This game, DeAndre Jordan doesn't play. Christian Wood still coming off the bench had 14 points, or he finished with 14? Yeah, 14 points, couple of boards, couple of assists. He had some great passes in this game. That's one thing. We didn't mention this before, but one thing that's unexpected from this season is Christian Wood is not he's billed as this chucker, this guy that's just going to throw up a bunch of shots. And he is going to put up some shots. That's the type of player he is. But he's also going to make the right pass, too. There's a couple times. There's one pass that he made that was awesome. That I think Josh Green missed a shot. But he had 2 other assists that were just really good passes. One of them to Maxey, where he got really caught up, and he could have just chucked up or thrown up a shot, tried to go for the foul or something like that, and instead, he threw the ball to Maxey. He was right under the rim and got the layup right there. He makes the right play, and it's great to have him coming off the bench. A mixed bag from him overall. Like, if you're going to talk about his full game, he had a couple of turnovers. He had a couple of bad fouls. And so it's just, it's the Christian Wood experience. It's the full Christian Wood experience, I feel like, every game. But he was a clear advantage off the bench. You could see it in his plus minus. He was +9. And when that bench unit was out there, they were better than the Nuggets bench. And it continues to be an advantage for the Mavs. Talked about Dorian Finney-Smith, but thought he was great. And he had 6 fouls in this game. You know who else had a bunch of fouls? Was Josh Green. Josh Green had 4 fouls in this game. He was 1 of 5 from the field. He never really got his footing under him. He's been great the last couple. Everybody's been talking glowingly about him, as have we. But he really struggled to find his footing. This game, there are so many fouls called in this game. If you watch this game, it felt like it took forever because they were just stopping and stopping and stopping. And the Mavs and the Nuggets are already like bottom 5 teams in pace. They're already 2 of the slowest teams in the NBA. And so to add all these fouls to it, on average, the league average this year for fouls, 20.7 per team per game. So on average, an NBA team fouls 20 times, 21 times. The Mavericks fouled 32 times, and the Nuggets got called for 28 fouls. 60 fouls. That's so many fouls. These guys were not letting anything. Guys were getting frustrated. Guys were going back and forth. Bones didn't know what a foul was. The Nuggets fan base didn't seem what a foul was at times. It just didn't seem like there was a lot of consistency either way. At time, at certain runs, the Mavs had an advantage. Certain times, it felt like the Nuggets had an advantage. And overall, it just made the product worse. Like, I don't know if any team had the big advantage. The Mavs took 3 more free throws, but it was 31-28 total free throws taken. Yeah, so it was just really back and forth. Now, after this win, the Mavericks are up 2-1 on the Nuggets. They have one more game. It's February 15th. It's the last game before the All-Star break. And if they win that game, they'll have the tiebreaker against the Nuggets, which is going to be important because you look at the standings right now, and the Mavericks are in 7th place. They're 13-11. The Nuggets are 14-10, so they're like right there. And the Mavericks are only 3 games back from the Suns after beating the Suns the other night. It's tight. Like, the Western Conference is still tight. And I don't think there's any teams above the Mavericks right now that you're nervous about in a playoff series. You play any of these teams, save maybe the Clippers if they get Kawhi back, but I just don't trust the Kawhi's going to come back. Like, Clippers, Nuggets, Kings, Grizzlies, Pelicans, and then the Suns. Like, those are the teams above you in the standings right now if you're the Mavericks. Nobody's really standing out. There's no Celtics or Bucks. Like, the Suns aren't that to me. There's no Celtics or Bucks in your side of the bracket where you're nervous about it. So the Mavericks are in a good place right now. It's good to be up 2-1 against the Nuggets and possibly get the tiebreaker. And that'll be good for the Dallas Mavericks. We will be back tomorrow breaking down more Dallas Mavericks stuff. Isaac will be back. We'll talk about where the Mavericks are, what they can do going forward. We think they still need to make some kind of move. So maybe what kind of move can the Mavericks make? In the comment section below, give me one reason the Mavericks won this game. Thanks for making Locked On Mavs your first listen today. Check out the Locked On Sports Today podcast, the biggest stories of the day, plus instant reaction, big game recaps, and the take of the day, available on Odyssey, wherever you get your podcast. Guys, thanks so much for listening to Locked On Mavs. Peace out. Boom!